The stadiums of the old era vibrated like living beings of steel and smoke. Every sprint, every shot tore the air like an invisible blade. And in the midst of this chaos stood players whose abilities defied all logic. These are seven stars with powers that football still barely comprehends. And now number one begins. Top one, Cristiano Ronaldo. He stepped onto the pitch like a precisely engineered projectile, programmed to penetrate any defensive structure. Over 850 career goals, 5 Champions League titles, countless records that read like a list of physical limits, yet nothing defines him as much as the moment he takes off from the ground. His jumping power reaches levels more akin to athletics, combined with a hang time that forces camera operators to readjust their axes because his body remains airborne for longer than human movement should technically allow. High-speed footage shows that his takeoff power and upper body stability exceed a point where mechanics become something eerie. To this day, analysts marvel at his ability to change direction at top speed without his hips losing momentum, an almost superhuman preservation of drive. And even now, in the late chapter of his career, he carries a presence that transforms the space as soon as he moves. Interviews, stadiums, accolades, everything lowers its volume when he appears. If one were to capture him in a single image, only this sentence remains. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't jump higher. He jumped out of gravity. Top two, Garrincha. He came down the right wing like a gust of wind breaking from another dimension. With over 600 professional games, 2 World Cup titles and dribbles that disarmed defenders time and again, he became a figure who seemed more legend than man. The crowd would fall silent as soon as he stopped the ball. Just that soft crackle of tension, just before a body fell in the wrong direction. His movements had no rhythm, no rule, no pattern that an opponent could decipher. For many analysts today, his play is a paradox. How could a man with asymmetrical legs create changes of direction that even modern tracking systems can barely predict? His accelerations were at angles that defied any biomechanical ideal, and yet they worked as if physics had made exceptions for him. Today, he appears in murals across Rio, in archives, in documentaries that try to explain the inexplicable. And yet the image always remains the same. A man with a ball and a world holding its breath for a moment. His legacy can be summed up in one sentence. Garrincha didn't need a trick. He was the trick. Top three, Lev Yashin. He stood in goal like a shadow that didn't blink. Over 270 penalties saved, more than 150 clean sheets, and a presence that transformed every stadium into an arena of pure nervous tension. When a striker ran up, time seemed to briefly pause, as if something in that space was deciding whether the shot would even be allowed to happen. Yashin didn't move fast in the classical sense. He simply appeared where the ball was going to end up. Modern analyses speak of reaction times that were significantly below today's professional standards, yet no one can explain how he saw trajectories before they even existed. His jumps had something predatory about them, as if he wasn't jumping, but rather shrinking the space between himself and the ball. And even today, decades after his retirement, he features in every discussion that attempts to quantify reflexes. Statues, memorial marches, slow-motion black and white footage. It all seems like an attempt to make Yashin's impossibility tangible. But in the end, all that remains is the feeling that there was a goalkeeper who didn't fight against players, but against probability itself. His stamp on history sounds like a whisper. He saved shots that no one should have been able to save. Top four, Roberto Carlos. He stepped up to the ball, and entire stadiums instinctively held their breath. Over 100 international caps, a Champions League triumph, countless crosses, runs, goals. Yet none of it truly describes what happened when his left foot struck the ball. Spectators saw not a shot, but a pressure wave that distorted space. His famous free kick goal against France still seems like a physical error in the system. A ball that flew outwards, only to then cut back into the post at the very last moment. Tracking data from modern analysts speaks of a lateral deviation that should technically be impossible. Too much speed, too much spin, too much power for the anatomy of a human. Carlos achieved shot speeds beyond 170 km/h, as if every contact between foot and ball triggered a kind of mini-explosion. And even in his later years, this energy remained visible. Short bursts of acceleration that looked like a coiled spring refusing to tire. Today, he regularly stands pitchside at events, in retrospectives, smiling, as if he knows exactly that no one has ever fully understood his shot. His legacy burns in one sentence. If the ball bent reality, his left foot was the origin. Top 5, Diego Maradona. He entered the pitch like a spark that electrified every square meter of grass. Over 300 professional games, a World Cup winner, series of solo runs that tore opposing defenses apart like paper. Yet no number explains why the crowd felt they were watching a natural phenomenon. When the ball stuck to his foot, the game lost its geometry. Defenders slid into thin air, as if trying to catch the shadow of lightning. Modern measurement data shows micro contacts on the ball that were so closely timed that even today's high-speed cameras struggle to separate them clearly. His turns didn't correspond to any classical movement pattern. They were too tight, too fast, too illogical for the human balance system. Tactical experts today explain that his center of gravity was unusually low, but that doesn't suffice to explain how he drew lines through teams as if he had already seen the future of every tackle. After his active career, he became a figure who lives on in murals, documentaries, stadiums, and fan rituals. A name that is not just remembered, but invoked. And his essence fits into a single sentence. Maradona didn't dribble forward, he dribbled out of reality. Top 6, Pavel Nedved. He wasn't a player who stepped onto the pitch. He stormed onto it like a motorized heart of steel. Over 500 professional games, a Ballon d'Or, endless Champions League nights in which he dominated the midfield with an intensity that spectators could literally feel. Every run seemed like a command, every tackle like a cut through the game's static. Nedved wasn't a sprinter in the classical sense. He was an enduring burner whose body refused to acknowledge the limits of normal stamina. Today, tracking data from reconstructed match scenes show running values that astound even modern midfielders. Consistent high-speed phases, hardly any drops, changes of direction at full pace, as if his pulse followed a different law. His long-range shot often didn't rise. It exploded, a projectile breaking free from midfield, without warning, without announcement. Now, years later, he is seen at awards, club events, UEFA appearances, always with the same calm that stands in stark contrast to the unstoppable energy he once brought to the pitch. And his essence remains tangible in a single sentence. Nedved didn't just run a lot, he ran as if the ball lived off his lungs. Top 7, Ronaldo Nazario. When he accelerated, the game changed its state of matter. Over 400 professional games, 2 World Cup titles, goals from angles that shouldn't actually be options. Ronaldo was the moment a defender knew they had already lost before the sprint had even begun. He didn't just break through lines, he glided through them as if the defense was merely a thin veil of air. Modern analyses reconstruct his steps and confirm values that shatter every pattern. Acceleration in the first few meters like a short-distance sprinter, combined with a change of pace that remains biomechanically almost unexplainable. His dribbling wasn't a dance, but a high-speed surgical operation, 2-3 micro-touches that changed direction before the opponent even recognized his intent. And even after severe injuries, he still seemed like a force of nature that couldn't be slowed down, only endured. Today he appears as a club president, relaxed, poised, a man who knows that his most active version can never be fully captured in a database. His legacy fits into a single razor-sharp image. Ronaldo didn't run past defenders. He obliterated the space that separated them. These 7 players have left marks that even time cannot erase. If their powers have resonated with you, then support this journey. Subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Every voice keeps the legends alive.